So over the rainbow, I don't care who y'all screw. I keep my own love life private. Why then, oh why can't you? Hello, Leslie. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. It's Pride, and I'm celebrating by plenty of PIV.
Oh, you just said you keep it private.
Oh, she said that you got to keep it in the sheets. She
goodness.
says, keep your sex to yourself. That's what this girl says.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's nice, isn't it?
Well, other than like your biological sex.
Oh, yeah. Well,
because you're all woman.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's in your
DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It exudes off of you
like
a musky effervescence.
Oh God, that's just really cringy.
It's not cringy at all.
Yeah.
We're here to, however, we are here to do something other than just tease each other. We're going to continue with our Evergreen watch party. Links to the first two parts are down there in the description. The first part we did episodes 1 to 4. Yeah, and then the second episode we did 5 to 8, and now we're going to start with 9, and we have 9 to 12 queued up. We'll see how that goes. I don't know how long each episode is, so what it is just going to be a watch party. We're going to stream it and we'll comment on it. If you guys have any questions, pop them in the chat box, and it helps for us to find them if you tip a bit. And it also helps with the cats and the kitties and the cradles.
And the chickens.
Because we have a grandkid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we do.
Oh, okay. Well, we do?
Yeah, well, I mean, we do.
Okay. Yeah. I did want to say something, and I'm not being paid to say this, but I think it would be an absolute shame if Mad Max Furiosa and Mad Max Tale just completely tanks at the box office. I've seen it twice. I really love the film. Leslie saw it. She only fell asleep twice.
Once. I only fell asleep once.
Well, okay, she went in a nap, and then she came out, and then she went into another nap, and I'm like, oh, you gotta wake up. This is the last part. This is the last part. This is the best part. I really enjoyed it. It's not like woke at all. I'm sorry, this is the camera we should be looking at, the one above. It's not woke. It was great, wonderfully choreographed. I think it's a little too long for one sitting, and so I'm really looking forward to when I get to watch it at home, pause it in the middle, and then get back to it.
Yeah, I think I could give a review, but maybe we should do that on a separate stream.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We have other things that we want to do a watch party with. If you guys have anything you guys want us to do a watch party with, Leslie really wants to do a watch party with the Ayla and Megan Murphy interview that I did about a year ago, which was a total disaster technologically and I think communicationally. But she has some opinions of it, and I haven't seen it since I published it.
That's funny. I was just saying I wanted to watch it with you, but I guess we could do it as a watch party.
I think it'd be a watch party.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay.
Why not?
Yep. All right.
So, anyways, it's Pride, and we're going to see what Pride is actually all about. Pride cometh before the fall, as they say.
All right.
So I just got to make sure that this is going to work. And movies up, and then turn that down. So here we go. Here we go. Are you going to play? Uh-oh. Overloads. Wait.
Figuring it out. Let's see. Slocumites and Boiseans, says Matt. That's cute. Slocumites and Boiseans. Huh. Hello, Helena. Hi, Clem.
Video file.
Weekly Canadian Gender
what's
Wars
going on.
Report. Hello.
That's the problem.
We're figuring this out.
Oh no, we were superimposed on the screen, and I actually have.
And then Brett asked the group if they were willing to have a discussion. Asked him straight up, and they verbally refused. And that was kind of a tipping point for me.
Would you like to hear the answer or not?
No! Are you going to take that?
You're fucking useless then! You're not learning anything! Chill! Listen!
Stop telling people of color they're fucking useless. You're useless. Get the fuck out.
I don't care.
I had an outburst, I'll admit. I said, as a direct response to that, then you're fucking useless. I also felt useless. I could see the string was moving these people and where they went, and it was like a Lovecraftian moment of awareness of this existential cosmic horror that I was just insignificant against. If love is that which enables choice, then fear is that which disables choice. And I felt like my choices were being whittled away. I could see these people being moved in ways that were destructive to all of our future on this planet. In one of the most progressive schools in the world.
Really quickly, we don't need to stop this at all. But anyone who actually needs to get fed, who hasn't gotten fed, there's been a few people who have stepped up to offer to get them food. So yes, but also get fed.
Yeah. There's also cheeseburgers over here and fries. We're just kind of in the way. Fuck that. We collected reparations now. Eat. And you guys buy a steak law.
You can help push in chairs, take care of the space so people can focus on food. So you can help be cleaning so that folks can sit down and relax and eat. And then they can deal with their stuff. So you can push in chairs.
You said specifically that you're not a white ally.
I think the quote-unquote white ally, it was more rhetorical to begin with when it started becoming a prevalent term at Evergreen, but it definitely became one that was used frequently. It became more like one of those buzzwords, But insofar as I know that there are people on this campus who remember what I did at Convocation, I can never be forgotten about. I don't know if you're aware of the protests that happened on Convocation the first week. Just a few students, but a lot of them were the same people that were leading the stuff that happened in spring. At first I was turned off from Evergreen because of that. Actually, at the protest, one of the things that was said by one of the protesters was, "Fuck white people." Mm-hmm. And that struck a chord with me in a very negative way. I immediately thought back to my grandfather, who he's from the Deep South, Nashville, Tennessee, and one of the first desegregated schools he was actually the principal of.
Oh.
Yeah, and when he was trying to open this school, it was a magnet school oriented to draw students into the inner city, whether they be white or people of color, to try to get them to do very rigorous curriculum. And the idea at the time was that these people of color couldn't do the same work as white students.
Okay.
And he said, well, of course they can. There's no reason why they can't. But they had told them that if they hold them to the same standards, then they're going to flunk out and the school will fail. And so he basically just said, then let's do it, and if the school fails, then it fails. Mm. And today, Hume Fogg, the school that he was the principal of, is actually one of the top schools, not only in Nashville, Tennessee, but in the country. So when I heard them say fuck white people, I thought back to that and thought, well, wait, there's white people that are trying to help, that are trying to be allies, and although the community might not be doing the best that it can, they're trying. And so I said some things that I wish I would have used a different tone about, because I definitely made people feel uncomfortable.
Get that camera on her ass! That's good, that's enough. Get that camera on her ass!
Excuse me?
Get the camera on her ass.
No, fuck you, George. We don't want to hear a goddamn thing you have to say. You talk so fucking much. No, you shut the fuck up. No, for now.
I think what's smart is not to I think what's smart is not to tone police people, because people are angry, and so what matters is what they're saying, not how they're saying it.
When people feel threatened because people finally are taking their power back and trying to say something, and they might be saying it in a tone that's upset because we're upset about this stuff, and then they get charged or with student conduct violations and have to leave the school, and that's what happens to people of color and disabled folks who are trying to speak up and say something, and they have to leave the school or have to feel unsafe here or have to feel like the whole administration is doing something against them. That is not okay. That is silencing, and that is what I'm afraid is going to happen with people who are you know, you're saying that, like, I mean, I understand that it's like maybe feels threatening when people are trying to say all this stuff at you, but it feels threatening every day for students who are trying to exist here and don't feel safe and don't feel like they like ever have a chance to say any of this.
Yeah, I mean, as a white student that is straight and cis, there's definitely less of a voice that I have, because they did center people who are less represented than me. And at first I had qualms with that, just because of the basic idea that people should be able to say what they want, not based off of any prior representation. But I understand to the extent that they feel like for so long people who look like me have had a chance to speak, and that now is their chance to speak, and that it was my time to sit back and listen for once. And it wasn't actually until I sat back and listened more that I started to really understand what they were talking about. So I feel like a lot of the times people jump to make a counter argument before they really understand what that person means when they say something, and that it takes listening to something 1 or 2 or 3 times before you really understand what the argument was and the best way to respond to it was. So I wouldn't say that I felt like I didn't have an opportunity to speak. I just never felt like anything that I was going to say was really going to create positive discourse. I feel like people were going to shut it down, not because it was being said by somebody like me, but because it just wasn't the right thing to say, and that it was going to be wasting time when there wasn't time to waste.
How can I help you, please?
Hey, it's Stacy.
Yes.
Did somebody call in to report an incident at the Greenery?
Yeah, I'm monitoring the greenery right now. They're doing a sit-in there at the front door.
They're doing a sit-in. Okay, and then was there a call because of a fight over there? Like
No.
Okay. So what my concern is they're trying to lure us into a situation.
Right, exactly.
And so we sit still, and if it's serious enough, then we would call in outside resources. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the asshole who left the fucking fridge.
No, it is his fault. Don't even try to justify Jacobson right here.
Okay.
All black.
Yeah, that's the guy who left the fucking fridge.
He's a lead cook.
Trying to keep the food.
But you're the one who locked the fridge.
Fucking paying to be
Because you
here.
thought that we were gonna.
I'm paying you.
You locked the fridge because you thought we were gonna take over your
But
fridge.
he doesn't make enough, you guys, to feed you. By the way, he does.
Even though we've already all prepaid. So you took our money, but you don't have the resources to feed us, which is a state violation. Okay, but you should have been working an hour ago. You shouldn't have to stand here malnourished because you don't want to do your $11 an hour job. You taking shit too seriously.
Jacob,
Broil? Why don't you go broil me something back there? The lead cook, chef it up. Students of color because they seen too many people was here, which is a state violation.
And they thought that we were gonna
everybody
raid the
here
fridge.
has an account or has a guest pass for everybody to be able to eat. They sit here and 20 minutes ago they just told us they had absolutely no food to be able to serve us, and here they are 20 minutes before they close because their managers made them come down here because of a protest. Now they have to serve food.
We just came down here because we were
Because y'all.
down here because of a protest. I came down here to help.
I wasn't saying about you, I'm
we're
talking about
talking
him.
about you. We're talking about him.
This guy, what's his name again?
Jacobson.
Jacob Boyle.
Jacob
Boyle. He's the lead cook. It says on his nice black chef
Oh,
tag.
he apparently doesn't even cook. He just locks the fridge from hungry students.
It's really scary because when you were being a student in the middle of that, there was a lot of times where I was feeling, gosh, like this is going against, like everything that people are doing right now is going against my critical thinking and what I feel like is right. But if I'm wrong in this situation, am I actually helping racism? Am I supporting a racist narrative? That sucks. I don't want to be that. And so the way it's put to everybody is that it's that one or the other. You're either with us or against us, and if you're against us, then you're the ultimate evil. You're supporting racism. And so being confronted with that is really scary, and I feel like there's probably a lot of really confused individuals that feel like they're doing the right thing, because if you're doing the other thing and you're wrong, that's, I don't know. It's like I feel like if you're on the protesting side and you're wrong, then you thought you were fighting for racism, you thought you're doing a good thing, and what you end up being guilty of is being, I don't know, immature and wrong. But if on the other side is, if you're wrong, then you're a racist. So it's like, at least if you're wrong on the protesting side, you're not a racist. So it's like, I can understand why more people would want to rather be a protester.
If it's determined that we need a police response tonight, it will not be coming from us. It'll be coming from Thurston County.
Okay.
And that's if it's a life or death situation. Wendy's going to check this out and let us know what the deal is, whether or not we're going to call Thurston County or not. The way that this group is so aggravated, they're very volatile. I'm not in uniform, long story, but I am armed, and then I'm not sending you out, Pam, to deal with this crowd by yourself. So,
I'm not going out unless it's life and death.
And the nourishment of our bodies, and understand that we have already been here for an hour and a half, and you need to make reparations for how you've harmed all of us in this specific instant. And yes, because that is $11 an hour salary job. That is a fireable position, and you're still not mandating any type of consequence. So there is an issue that you're not willing to address.
Technically, every position is fireable.
Well, that's not what George was telling us earlier with faculty, but this I know. You could instantly come in here and make an impact right now, but you're blatantly deciding not to because they're making us pizzas after the greenery is supposed to be closed, after we've already swiped our cards and paid.
So would it be useful for us to take down the names of students that swiped and did not get food?
Only if you can guarantee us that we're going to get our money back. If not, then why the hell are you taking
Right, why are you taking names?
Are we
because
going to get in trouble?
Are the people going to have a list? Are the people at the front going to have a list of names of people who are welcome in here to have another meal based on, I'm not, are you implementing a refund for the people that gave up their guest passes and didn't eat? So that's what how are you accommodating to us? Because we're about to log in, we haven't eaten. Technically your space is closed, so you haven't done nothing for us, and you have to admit a refund. You have to, or it's a state lawsuit. So because you're violating state requirements. This is not me saying it. This is the state saying that. It's a requirement for freshmen to eat on campus. It's a requirement that you guys have nourishment for every student that has a paid greenery account.
So are there folks here right now that want their swipe removed from their card?
I think everybody here would like a refund and additional meals through the end of the quarter. For people that don't eat on the greenery, let me say that don't have meal plans.
What I can offer right now is for folks who swiped or paid and didn't get food, take the swipe off.
Okay, so if she's willing to refund you your meal count if you did not eat today.
So if you have Evergreen ID and you swiped your card and you didn't eat, come to Wendy and Wendy's going to remove that swipe.
So pretty much everybody come get your card swiped.
Okay, I have a question. So what are going to be the consequences for
him? Because how do we know this is not going to happen again?
Because the reason why all of us students walk in here is because we have the concern of us students aren't being safe we're not safe on campus. So all of us was going to stick together and make sure that our friends were able to eat safely. They got mad and was like, oh, you guys came in here to steal our food. Who the fuck wants prison food? That's true. We came here to protect ourselves because we have nothing else.
Right, because we walked out of the room and George gave us no concrete detail on how specifically he would help accommodate us.
We're fucking done with this. They haven't answered shit. So how about administration, George, Wendy, get the fuck out, we're done.
No justice, fuck peace. No justice, fuck peace. Fuck you, George. See your way out.
He didn't say, well, let me call the military base and see if they can help accommodate black students on their way home. Let me call the police that are on campus to help protect us, escort you guys to the greenery if you need to eat.
To be clear, she's saying that George Bridges is being negligent towards student safety by not calling Joint Base Lewis McChord, which is 34 miles away, and requesting a military escort for students to walk between the library building and the cafeteria, which is about 450 feet.
So you guys, that's easy for you guys to have easily implemented to, promote the safety of your students of color. You completely dismiss that, and then when we have allies here to help make sure we're safe, you blatantly disrespect them and malnourish everybody and deprived everybody of what they've already paid. I'm not even gonna say it's their right because they paid for it.
Not on top of that, we have Jacob who works here, and when I went up there and nicely asked him, hey, people paid, can we get the food? Why did you lock it? When I was told it was him, he said, I have no right to it. And I said, well, you have the keys, open it up. We just wanted some hamburgers. And he blatantly lied to me after telling me he had the keys, that he didn't have the keys and that he would get to it after his paperwork was done. Vanished for over 30 minutes. And then when he came back, was suddenly not talking to us, anything, and he blatantly rude. Yeah, he handed the back. He handed the back to all the other workers. Listen, what's his name?
Ray is the only one that has helped.
Yeah.
And he's a veteran, a marginalized veteran. The one veteran you have working back there, is the only one that stays to accommodate to the students. So how are you going to accommodate to him as well? Because everybody took a good 45-minute work break, and a veteran of our services of our country is still out here cooking sweat.
And honestly, every time when I come in here, he is the only person still working his ass off. All the time.
So how not only are you going to address marginalized people of color that are students but staff here?
So are there students that want a refund right now?
Yes, we need somebody fired so that they don't, because if we come in here again today, is he going to do the same thing? And if he does, what are the repercussions for that?
He doesn't pay enough to feed us. Literally, quote unquote, he said, I don't make enough money to feed you right now.
But he doesn't make enough money to feed us, but you had enough time to take the money from all of us.
He doesn't even know how to cut.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. If this is an issue, if you're not going to fire him, and we have this on camera, so that's what I'm saying. Whatever you guys think is imaginary and made up, we can take to a lawyer and lawsuit, and that's directly him speaking and saying, I cannot do X, Y, and Z, which is an explicit, against the Washington State's law. It's not conduct, it's not a policy, it's Washington State law. Fire him.
Go, gooey dust, go. Stretch your necks when the tide is low. Siphon high, squirt it out, swivel all about, let it all hang.
That's it. Sing it early and often.
And then you come in motherfucking fear. This is what fear looks like. When you got your back against the wall because your fucking student body, who is the most powerful motherfuckers on this campus, shit, we want shit to change. We don't want a motherfucking training in the summer to happen next year. We got a month left in this shit. A month left of you getting paid from whose money?
That's episode 9. A lot going on in there. Just to let everybody know, so people, ever since this ever happened and I started making videos, they all think that I'm this guy, the guy that's right next to Brett, the guy who yells at the students. And I'm not. He was a student, and he released that video and he's really shooken up about the whole thing. And there's you took a bunch of notes.
Yeah, I was wondering about the student who threatened to sue you. You said that the guy.
Oh yeah, so did I keep it in there? I think I might have edited it out there. But he was at in convocation, which was of that year. Students protested, and we'll get to that a little bit later. We'll jump back because the guy in the wheelchair, and Lawrence, who said "fuck you, George." We don't want to live in blah, blah, blah. They have been agitating all year round, and they have multiple conduct violations, and so they're kind of put up in the middle of this. Well, they're both trans. No, R and Lawrence. We'll get to them later on. But they protested during convocation, which we'll get to that. Jamil gets there, but the kid who I interviewed, who he came after me after the Georgianing, the Great George Floridaning. I think he was still in school. He was very wary of his face being attached to this stuff and being marginally critical about the prevailing orthodoxy. And you can kind of see that in this episode, that he's like, well, maybe you don't understand it rationally the first time, but like the second or third time you start to really understand, and then so it's not like I couldn't say anything, but I couldn't say anything positive.
He was really struggling with.
So he was really, and he reached out to me because I interviewed Keave and put that up online, and then that guy, I can't even remember his name now. He reached out to me to get on camera to tell the other side of the story, but the other side of the story didn't add up. Like he had been warped by the whole thing, and like he was given selective information, and his critical thinking functioning was shut down. I don't know if that was. It seems like that came up several times, but I was just looking at something else about an article from the New York Times that said critical thinking as we've taught it is not helping us diminish misinformation. It was during 2020, like where they said doing your own research is actually harming everybody.
Yeah.
So you see the whole thing like this massive brainwashing movement, and this is happening in miniature. So he just like Shoop's wife sent me a letter and said, you need to take this all down, or else I'm going to sue because of Nevada law and all this law, and it just doesn't even make any sense. And I'm like, I don't want to get sued, So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll cover your face up, but I can't take you out because like it's part of the whole story. And he's like, you lied about me. You showed that I was a liar. I'm like, well, you just didn't tell the truth. I didn't call you a liar. You were just. But instead of, I thought it was rather cowardly. So I took it out, and then he gave me $20.17 in a PayPal donation for year 2017, which is when this happened.
I see. Yeah. Interesting. So it was like a little thank you.
I guess so, or like kind of a shameful kind of throwing me
having a hard time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was interesting how often these students say, "My money, I'm paying for this. My money, I'm paying for this."
Yep.
That's very interesting. They really find a lot of power in that. That it's their and what's interesting about that is that a lot of what they're talking about is it's kind of monetary. It's like, we want our reparations. We want you to pay us. We want you to give us things for free. And we feel powerful because of money that we have sent to you. It's very interesting, that economic factor.
Well, I mean, okay, that's downwind of the civil rights movement when, rather than just trying to fix the moral problem that was...
Well, our whole legal system is just based on money, too.
You were telling me that.
Yeah, like
also.
our tort system.
Everything's very reparations. Yeah. It's all transactional. It's all entitlements.
That's how we...
And then they act entitled. And then they try to make like the concrete claim.
Well, and I don't know if these are kids or young people that are actually calling themselves communist, but... That is interesting too, because so much of this whole movement has this communist flavor, and yet it's really, there's this like, we have a ledger all the time. We have our ledger all the time about how much you're getting from us and how much we expect from you, and it's very economic.
No, it'll come up later when they demand their grades, because they paid for these grades.
They paid for their grades. Well, they also really harass the kitchen staff, and that's ugly to see. And they're not only harassing them and expecting them to work for them and demanding them and demeaning them when they're not doing what they want, but they're also mocking them based on their pay and their wage.
Yeah.
So there's this like, we're above you. We pay for you.
Yeah, you serve us.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, they talk to George that way too. We pay you.
Yeah.
We pay you.
Yeah.
That's one meme that gets replicated over and over and over again. It's like it's just a point that they have.
Yeah. Is the song, Evergreen song, actually Let It All Hang Out?
The Evergreen...
And they have a gooey duck as a mascot.
The Evergreen mascot is a gooey duck. And I didn't include it in the documentary, but I have some old tapes of when they decided on the gooey duck. And it's like it changes shape, or it changes sex, and it's like... And this is back in the 70s. It's very progressive.
It's like a penis in a shell.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
And Let It All Hang Out is really the song?
It's Pig Latin. The motto is Omnia Extraris, which means let it all hang out.
Oh my god.
And that's been the school motto since its founding. But now they have a tagline called "Your Way to the World," which they paid $200,000 or $300,000 to develop all this stuff in the wake of the protests.
Well, it sounds like it sounds humorous. Was this intended to be funny? The gooey duck, is that supposed to be funny and let it all hang out?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be cute.
Well, it's supposed to be kind of.
Doesn't sound like a serious place of learning.
Well, it's kind of tongue in cheek. Let's put it that way. Yeah, it's tongue in cheek or phallus in shell. Yeah, in shell. Yeah.
All right then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? There was one. Two super chats. Super chats. Jenny getting inky with it. Thank you for all your support, gents. What danger was there to go those tens of feet? Seems like they are the majority, and being the aggressor, who did they think was going to attack them? That's what she said. And again, it doesn't make any sense. It's just like, here's a point where we can move our power forward. We can exert our power by saying that we're not safe. And say we want a police escort, but the police come to check out a problem, and they're like, the police are the aggressors. So it doesn't make any sense. And that they're not working by committee, so nobody's like checking their logic. That girl who's grandstanding, saying we're malnourished, you're malnourishing us. And if you look at the BMI, the average BMI in the room, you're like, okay, which technically that is a form of malnourishment. You're not being malnourished, but.
No, that's...
In the original version of this, when she goes off on the veterans and the marginalized veteran, I had like the national anthem like come in, and people were like, that was a little too far. I kind of did a little YouTube mocking things, and I took that all out.
There's some flourishes you removed. Yeah, that's interesting. That girl, I wonder how she feels about this at this point. I wonder what she's like now, what she thinks about that part of her being caught on tape. I mean, it's a real tantrum, and it's like she just loses sight of reason and logic, and it's all emotion, and it's just I'm going to, if you head me off at this pass with logic, I'm going to choose a different route, and I'm just going to keep pushing my point, and I don't care about reason.
Well, I do have to say that this episode follows directly on the heels of our last episode, which was Brett talking to the students, and you can hear her arguing with Brett, and it happens directly after.
She's real prominent in this.
On the first day, yeah.
Okay.
Her, I don't know her name, but people are asked, well, where are they now? They all kind of just dropped off the map, and then it's like Ta-Nehisi Coates getting upstaged by Ibram X. Kendi. It's like, okay, well, somebody else is taking over the ball. There's a bunch of other aggressors out there. There's Portland Antifa, which is, I don't know if I told you, but Kiave, who's the agitator for this, with the Facebook post, he ends up in 2020 getting arrested for carrying a bunch of explosives and about to blow up a Starbucks down in Portland because he's a part of Antifa now. So he like totally gets on the revolution. They're all part of the revolution. And Jackson, that's his name, the kid's name Jackson. You can see that he's already being programmed. He's a cis white straight male. Like the
one who covered up.
Yeah, the one who I covered up.
Okay.
He can't. His environment was such, and his character constitution was such that he couldn't find a way to safely navigate that. And I think he internalized it. Hopefully, I think he's the one person that has reached out to me with regret.
Really?
And he just tried to strong arm me, and instead of like being ashamed, he's like, I need you to take that out because you made me look bad. You made me look bad. I'm like, it was brave of you to stand out, but I didn't make you look bad. You
spoke for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just put it together.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
I don't know what happens in the next episode, but there was one more question. What percentage of these kids were actually working? That's good.
Yeah, that is a good question, Calm. I was thinking that too. Like when they're saying their money, I mean, were they talking about Pell Grants? Were they talking about student loans? Were they talking about mom and dad?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting the amount of possessiveness over this economic contribution.
And what part were scholarships? A lot of them probably were on scholarship for being.
But then that's a part of their entitlement.
Yeah, it's a part of their entitlement.
Clem sends a super chat.
Oh, what's he say? Have you tried to have this doc shown on PBS or some major network? It should be more widely seen. So Mike Nana, who's the one who did the superior in certain ways version of this. Like it's tighter, it's much more beautiful, it's got music, it's produced. He was talking, or we were talking about trying to get it onto Amazon or Netflix or something like that. And I spoke with other people, but the problem is that there's so much legal problems around the rights for this footage. I can use it as found footage, but if it gets tied up in the studio systems and stuff, there's all these just a lot of money, more lawyers, and then like figuring out how to pay for this comes into question. And this stuff is just kind of found footage.
I see.
For me. So I think I'm covered because it's just out there, and then I made a lot of edits to it. I've definitely turned it into a creative work. So
yeah,
I haven't heard anybody go after me on that one, but people don't want to deal with it on that level. But it's a good question, and I think at some point somebody at Arthur Miller is going to come around and make it into a crucible. I mean, I do have the musical. Maybe I'll sing some of that.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, so we are now going to go to episode 10.
Uh-oh.
This is gonna make me cringe. I'm gonna step off camera because it's just gonna be me talking.
Oh.
So, where are we? May 23rd was the first day of that week of protest, but it was not the first day of protest that year. In fact, the entire year was kicked off with a miniature protest at Convocation on September 21st, 2016, when a group of protesters, which would be the same individuals repeating their protests more and more brazenly over the course of the year, attempted to interrupt the Convocation speaker by holding up signs reading,
"Thank you. Can't read it."
Evergreen catches diversity checks but doesn't give a shit about blacks.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Let's have questions for Dr. Orestes. We will be discussing race this year many times.
But before we get into that, I want to skip back 1 month prior to the 24th of August, 2016, when a letter began circulating on the internet written by the Chicago University Dean of Students, John Ellison, and addressed to the incoming freshman class of 2020. Quote, "Our commitment to academic freedom means that we do not support so-called trigger warnings. We do not cancel invited speakers because their topics might prove controversial, and we do not condone the creation of intellectual safe spaces where individuals can retreat from ideas and perspectives at odds with their own." 5 days after this letter began to circulate on the internet, a op-ed appeared in the Seattle Times written by George S. Bridges, the current president of the Evergreen State College, why students need trigger warnings and safe places. This op-ed begins, "The University of Chicago's recent welcome to its incoming class wasn't welcoming. The message, conveyed in a letter from the Dean of Students, revealed a profound indifference to the concerns that many students now bring to colleges and universities. Yet how colleges and universities respond to these concerns often proves critical to the success of students and to the freedom of faculty in educating an increasingly diverse student body." In this episode of The Complete Evergreen Story, I will walk us step by step through the protests preceding the major protest in the spring of 2017, and I will leave open the question of why the safest of spaces gave rise to an increasing sense of harm, and how is it that so many trigger warnings led to the shout-out heard around the world.
We will be discussing race this year many times. Dr. Orestes, any questions, students?
May we hear the student speak for a second?
I can't hear you.
May we hear the student speak for a second? I think it'd be nice to get a kind of feel for what it's about. I'd like to hear it.
What I'd like to do? Thank you. Right. Out of courtesy to our guests, like the questions right now, to focus on her work, and then if y'all want to stay, we can ask the students questions. So let us finish with Dr. Orestes, please, and then we'll focus on our students. Okay? So, questions to Dr. Restes.
Now, while I don't have any audio or video recordings of the conversation that George Bridges invited protesters and the student body to have after the speaker was done at convocation, the school newspaper, the Cooper Point Journal, did write a couple articles about that, from which I will excerpt a few paragraphs. A small group did stay to hear their fellow students, but their demonstration quickly changed from a few statements from students of color into a discussion over the value of the Black Lives Matter movement, mostly led by the audience. The level of support towards protesters fluctuated between arguing or clarifying to declarations of humility and kneeling from white students towards the students of color. Yes, I just read, and kneeling from white students toward the students of color. A faculty member stepped in to encourage white people not to take up space by talking, but just to listen. A handful of white students took turns reiterating, ironically, that white people should only be listening. Also published on the Cooper Point Journal website is an interview composed by Terry Gunstone with the two main protesters, R. and Lawrence.
Fuck you, George. We don't want to hear a goddamn thing you have to say. You fascist! Fuck you! Fuck you, George!
Fuck you and fuck the police!
Cooper Point Journal, was your protest at convocation planned in advance? Lawrence, my partner was at convocation and started texting me that George Bridges was saying something about how racism is just people being offended. Did not happen. R, George Bridges talks in a very Clinton-esque liberal way, saying things like, we care about you so much, but doesn't show up for you. There's lots of verbalized reassurance, but he doesn't follow through with action. Lawrence, so I call R and say, George is being problematic as fuck again. Let's go rip shit up. What led you to write Evergreen cashes diversity checks but doesn't care about blacks? R, it's as simple as going on the website, right? Right away, you can at least find a handful of pictures of people of color. That's the selling point for diversity. Black students, brown students, diversity. Lawrence, but those students are treated on campus like trophies who are super disposable. George Bridges himself, the day after convocation, issued an email to the Evergreen campus reading, during our convocation ceremony yesterday, 2 students courageously and respectfully expressed their concern about the college's commitment to supporting and valuing black students and underserved populations. I believe these students conveyed the frustration and anger of many others about aspects of their experiences here and about the ongoing struggle for racial justice in our country. Rather than inviting them to voice their concerns at the end of our keynote speaker's presentation, I decided that we should complete the convocation program before opening discussion. I regret having made this decision. The concerns raised by our students are shared by many in our community. These concerns are far more important for Evergreen to consider and understand than what was planned for the remainder of yesterday's program. The action of our students afforded us an opportunity to begin the critical work for the year ahead. Our society is deeply polarized and divided along racial and class lines. And like our country, colleges and universities continue to struggle with our country's legacy of anti-black racism and issues of poverty and privilege. At this moment in our history, we have a rare opportunity to address these issues and to make constructive changes in our campus and our community, which is exactly what he said 1 year prior.
At this moment in our history, we have a rare and a critical opportunity to address these issues, to make constructive changes in our country, in our community, and on our campus.
Lip service.
Trump is going to lose the November election, but the misplaced anger of supporters is not going to go away. There's a danger of growing fascism from below. This shouldn't be taken lightly. Nor should the growing surveillance, police state, and militarism, together with not solving the economic and environmental crisis, which will continue if we sit back with Clinton as president. The Black Lives Matter movement, the climate justice movement, and the inspiring Native-led movement against the Dakota Access Pipeline. has created a surge in activism, an increasing interest in going beyond reform and capitalism to what is necessary, a multicultural, feminist, participatory socialist society.
So I'm Zoltan Grossman on the faculty, and I've been involved for the last 30 years monitoring, researching, working against the white supremacist far right. And I've never been so worried as today. And it's not just because of Trump. This is also a global phenomenon in both the US and Europe. What's really concerning to me these days is what I call the conservative fascist nexus. And that's the popularization of racist policies by fascist organizations that are taken on by conservative politicians in order to win votes. And so there are certain movements that contain both conservative and fascist elements, such as the Tea Party, the Open Carry movement, and certain mainstream figures, notably Pat Buchanan, Michelle Bachmann, Pamela Geller, and now I believe Donald Trump fits into this category. And in particular, Trump's association with what's called the alt-right or the alternative right. One of the organizers of David Duke's party said that the success of the Trump campaign just proves that our views resonate with millions. They may not be ready for the KKK yet, but as anti-white hatred escalates, they will. What is the future of the United States on November 9th? I think we're fixated now on November 8th and what might happen or what might not happen. I think we should really start thinking about November 9th seriously. But long term, I think with the new President Clinton, she provides the perfect target, the perfect storm again for a resurgent right populist fascist movement. We need to take away their legitimate populist and anti-war appeals and leave them bare with nothing but their racism and misogyny exposed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. Complicated. I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory. And I congratulated her and her family on a very, very hard-fought campaign. I mean, she fought very hard.
I've had successes and I've had setbacks, sometimes really painful ones. Many of you are at the beginning of your professional, public, and political careers. You will have successes and setbacks too. This loss hurts, but please, never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it.
High school and college students staged walkouts across the land, and Evergreen was no exception. I was a student at that time and filed, along with my class and others, into Red Square. I kept my distance from this protest for reasons that we can speculate on at another time. But before getting to that, I want to take a brief detour to Naima Lowe's Facebook page, where on November 9th at 8:41 p.m. she posted, along with a photo of her in Red Square during the walkout, flipping off the camera, quote, "I'm grateful to spend time with other women of color doing the hard fucking work of fixing this mess that whiteness has made. Y'all are everything. I love you. We will fight. We will win." To my white friends, you're on notice. If you are not paying me cash money, working on an impeachment plan, or burning a cop shop to the ground, we don't have much to say to each other. Yes, I want you to pray. Yes, I want you to love and support the people of color in your lives. Yes, I care about the intersecting oppressions that we experience in tandem, but mostly, I want you to take responsibility for this mess. It is your mess. It is time to fix your mess.
For all y'all out here who woke up this morning and went on your Facebook and was like, oh no, racism's alive, oh no, the world's falling apart. But where you been the whole year? Come on. We've been for the last forever. Are you fucking for real? Are y'all out here crying just now? In November? The year's almost over, 2017, right fucking there. And you just now getting upset? Are you for real? You should have been upset. And if you wasn't upset before and you decided all of a sudden to get live and decide to get lit, well, here's your chance. I see a bunch of fucking people here. I will remember your faces. Don't think that I won't, because I will. And if I do not see you in actions, if I do not see you out here helping your people of color, helping your black folks, helping your trans folks, every fucking chance you got, I'm gonna talk to you, and you don't want me to talk to you. That's real talk. You do not want me to talk to you. Because the only way this shit gets better is if all y'all show the fuck up. All the time, every day of the week. Not during Black History Month, not during Women's Suffrage, not during Trans Awareness Month. Every fucking day you should be out here doing something. I got kicked out of work today and I heard there was shit going on in here. I went and bought tacos for you motherfuckers. Immediately. Because this work doesn't stop. Ever. You all are accountable for that. Not just me, not just activists, not just black people, every motherfucking...
The system has not been rigged against you. It has not been rigged against you. Socially, politically, financially, it has not been rigged against you. You are not oppressed. As a white person, you are not oppressed. You're not. It is up to you to educate yourself. I keep hearing all these white folks saying, you know, like, let me talk, let me talk. No, fuck that, no, that's not happening. You are not oppressed. This is not about you. It's not about you. What can I do to help? Because I'm fucking sick of it. I'm sick of white people telling me that there is no racism. Racism's dead because black people, Hispanic people can go to school together. Racism isn't dead. It's still here, and I'm sick of people just now standing up. Oh, because Trump is president? This problem has been around for decades. This country was built on racism and violence. And I'm sick of a white male grabbing the mic and saying that we need to fight for equality for all. Does anyone see that there's been privilege for white people their entire lives? Am I the only one seeing that? Is everyone fucking colorblind? Yes. Thank you, exactly. Like, take a fucking seat. As said before, take a seat, okay? You're not oppressed. This is not about you. This is about the minority, you know? Not even real, you know? And it's just, like said millions and millions of times before I stood up and started rambling, we gotta stand together. That's the only way. That's the only way. We gotta stand together. And you know what? I got friends who are scared of being deported. I got family. They're scared of being deported. They're scared of walking down the street for fear of getting shot. Now, when you can face struggles like that, you can talk on the fucking microphone. I'm done.
After the walkout, a group of students filed into the Les Perce Lecture Hall, which was at that moment being dedicated to the previous college president, Les Perce.
He graduated from Evergreen in 1973 and later served with us on the Board of Trustees during difficult periods in which the college faced the major financial challenges I mentioned. And
you have a message for students?
As my fellow trustees will attest, Danny's... Don't be unpolite. This isn't your time.
It's not yours either.
Okay, so this is a message from a student. Here's their statement. My name is Carl Gonzalez. I am in Standing Rock. I am a greener. Fuck your neoliberal bullshit to make this school run like a corporation. Fuck raising tuition, catering to racists, homophobes, transphobic, bigots, neo-Nazis, rapists. Fuck you. Y'all are putting us into debt. Y'all are stealing our money. This school is unsafe for marginalized students and you know it. And you don't care. Stop fucking telling us you don't care. You expose yourselves with every policy decision you make. You fire all the teachers who we love, who teach us how to organize against capitalism, because you want to make money. That is disgusting. We should not be told to be grateful to receive meager offerings. We should and can win everything. Stop telling us that the world has limited resources, that you have limited resources. That's not fucking true. What is true, though, is that y'all don't want us to know how to fight for our liberation. And we will fight for this because you make us have to. So just don't tell me you heard me. Tell me what you're going to do to make our school better. You don't need no fucking exploratory committee. We are here right now telling you. So do more than listen. Tell me right now how you'll take action.
I indicated that he graduated from Evergreen in 1973 and later served on the Board of Trustees with us during difficult periods in which the college faced the major financial challenges that I mentioned.
So you're not going answer! This isn't going away!
As my fellow trustees will attest, Denny's first concern was always the well-being of Evergreen students,
Are you going to fucking answer or not?
unrelenting and asking tough questions of the administration.
This is not, as you might have noticed, a very easy institution to govern. It isn't, frankly, because of its commitment to egalitarian values and democratic principles. And those are principles that I share, but they make it more difficult. And yet Les was able to do that over a very long period of time.
Many of us thought this would be a very, very different day. A very different day. And I'm more than willing to answer a question, but let me finish my comments. I'll honor you, you honor me. Thank you. Now,
Are you going to let him know?
and I will listen. Dr. King stated that the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice.
Dr. King is also dead.
And I often thought that what that meant was that the arc was on a natural arc. That if time just passed, that the arc would bend towards justice. But that is simply not the case. The arc has to be shaped by all of us in our commitment to justice and equity.
And
to
get
ensure
out of
that
the
your
tower and
institution
into
does
the
it.
streets! Out of the tower
And
and
your,
into the streets!
and your question, ma'am.
Okay, so my questions are, while you were president here, what did you do for like the black students on campus? What did you do for the LGBTQ people on campus? What did you do for the Latinx people on campus? What did you do? You keep talking about race and everything and like, oh, you look back to your grandparents, blah, blah, blah. But like, what did you do for us? What did you do for the people on campus?
Excuse me, it's not back to my grandparents, blah, 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 blah.
Well, I'm just
It's not back to my grandparents, blah, blah, blah. It's not. It's the core of our foundation of who we are. I get it, the anger. I get it that you want responses and you deserve them. But you have to interact. You have to interact with people that are committed like you are to it. Just because I have a suit on now, have more than a year, but it's kind of nice to have it on again. But just because I'm that, and that's been my life, and my life is passing, you have to, learn wisdom from elders and educate elders as well. But we have to find the foundation to open the door for the conversation, people. We have to find a way to do that. That's what it's about, students.
students. Your students are scared. Your students aren't being represented. Your students want answers. You're talking over them, you're clapping over them. Who are you here for? The students are scared. There's racial threats on campus. There's sexual assault going on. They want to know what you're going to do.
Everyone, do not have cocktail parties on indigenous land. Do not pretend everything is fine. We have a fascist president-elect. We have unsafe students. We have white supremacists and neo-Nazis on campus. We have buzzwords and we have no commitments. What is everyone in this room doing with you if you're not committed to anti-oppression, to anti-racism?
There are two ideas about safe spaces. One is a very good idea and one is a terrible idea. The idea of being physically safe on a campus, not being subjected to sexual harassment and physical abuse or something like that, or being targeted specifically personally for some kind of hate speech, you are an N-word or whatever, hey, perfectly fine with that. Perfectly fine with that. But there's another view that is now, I think, ascendant, which I think is just a horrible view, which is that I need to be safe ideologically. I need to be safe emotionally. I just need to feel good all the time. And if someone says something that I don't like, that is a problem for everybody else, including the administration. And I think that is a terrible idea for the following reason. I don't want you to be safe ideologically. I don't want you to be safe emotionally. I want you to be strong. That's different. I'm not going to pave the jungle for you. Put on some boots and learn how to deal with adversity. I'm not going to take all the weights out of the gym. That's the whole point of the gym. This is the gym. Liberals, my parents, and Monica Elizabeth Peake's parents, hello Monica, were marched. They dealt with fire hoses. They dealt with dogs. They dealt with beatings. You can't deal with a mean tweet? You are creating a kind of liberalism that the minute it crosses the street into the real world is not just useless, but obnoxious and dangerous. I want you to be offended every single day on this campus. I want you to be deeply aggrieved and offended and upset, and then to learn how to speak back. Because that's what we need from you in these communities.
There we go. You got any notes there, Lele?
Yeah, a couple, I guess. It was interesting. That was a pretty shocking episode.
What? That one was?
Yeah, that was really shocking.
The one before, I guess, wasn't as shocking. We go back to the footage.
I don't know, maybe every single
the one before I did all this reading,
shocking.
like, okay, let me tell you. It's just so fascinating that the Chicago put out the statement, the Chicago principles, and then Bridges like, no, and then his whole tenure is just devoured by these kids that are clamoring for safe spaces.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot there. I thought it was interesting. You included the political stuff, the loss, the Trump-Hillary thing, and the people reacting to that. And when I was watching them reacting to that, my first reaction was kind of like this, kind of like a little bit of a snarky reaction. Oh, boohoo, because whatever. But I thought, no, actually, I've been there. We get really whipped up into these elections.
Yeah.
And then when your guy or girl or whatever doesn't, you feel really powerfully attached to what you think the outcome is going to be. And it's a pretty existential loss, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just So I had to kind of examine that a little bit. But the Naima Low, my goodness.
Oh, bitch better have my
goodness.
money. If you're not burning down a cop shop.
So unprofessional. I'm really shocked that that's a professor.
Yeah.
Wearing was she wearing like a bunch of middle fingers on her shirt and then flipping off a camera on campus?
Yeah.
How far are we fallen that that's a professor?
Yeah.
And then she's saying, if you're white and you're not paying me money, you're burning cops down. What?
Yep.
And she wasn't fired on the spot. I mean, they allow such crazy behavior. The students that come and mob and take over the mic at that dedication ceremony, it's so incredible how bankrupt their basic premise is. Their stance is valueless, because they're saying, what is the point of anti-racism? What's the point of fighting marginalization or fighting oppression and privilege balances? It's you're trying to make a statement that you've been treated unfairly, but in pursuit of making people hear you, you're going to treat them terribly unfairly. You have no value. You have no values at all, and it's the moral bankruptcy of that scene. It's like Lord of the Flies. Like, they just allow it, and these adults in the room are just they're encouraging this behavior by not swiftly putting an end to it.
Yeah, I thought
those kids should have been ejected and expelled.
So, director notes or director commentary. Yeah. I was working for the media department.
Okay.
And I was not in that room when that happens. But we had a big conversation about what to do with all that footage.
Okay.
Because we're supposed to show up and we record things. We document what's happened. And plus, it's a state college, so it's all state property. And that's how I got hold of it all, because it's all state property, everything they record.
Okay.
So like, well, how do we edit this, and how do we properly? It was a big, difficult discussion on, well, if there's going to be a protest, how are we going to? Do we turn the cameras off? Do we keep the cameras running? What do we do? Do we, because we have to be objective, we have to be professional. And then we'll get to there, because R and Lawrence, so hopefully they're kind of in your head now.
Yep.
R is the guy in the wheelchair, and Lawrence is his buddy.
Yeah.
And I took my last class at Evergreen was with them.
Okay, they were students.
So they're going to show up again and again and again.
Yeah.
But they had increasingly been behaving that way and getting reprimanded by the school.
Okay.
And so there was a little snippet towards the beginning of that episode where Charlene, I think her name was, stands up and says, we have students, black students, who are they don't feel safe here. And they're just being persecuted by this administration.
That's who she was talking about.
Yeah, she was talking about R and Lawrence, who were just acting like
tyrants.
Freewheeling provocateurs.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Without the artfulness and the...
That's right.
Oh man, they ended up making internet porn, and you do not want to see it.
Are you joking?
I'm not joking.
Oh my God.
That was the problem with the Where Are They Now? Like, I found out what they ended up doing, and you just have R's soapy butt.
Oh,
like this little gimpy soapy butt. Like, come here, daddy. And then he alternates between doing all the sexy stuff and then like berailing that nobody wants to fuck him. It's just like so twisted.
Oh, I'm really disturbed now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess I already was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to add insult to injury. Let's check the chat. Did you have any more notes there?
The interesting when they were saying that they're telling them that the resources were limited, and that was a lie. That was interesting.
Don't tell us you have limited resources. Don't tell the world has limited resources. That's a lie. I love that line so much.
Yeah.
That is like we're just watching escalating entitlement.
Yeah.
Like, we want everything. Give me your nipple, and don't say no to me.
Yeah.
And then there's the Naima Low. It's like, don't say no to them, and then kind of like but she's not giving them anything either, other than hate. There was one, after I started documenting this, and I had people reaching out to me that were on staff at Evergreen. One person contacted me, and we have falling outs because I keep on criticizing the institution, because the more you pull, like, everybody's complicit in this bullshit. And the people who are just trying to survive are kind of like, why are you taking away my meal ticket? We're trying to survive here. I know it's crazy, but don't go so far. But they're still surviving because there's unlimited resources apparently in Washington State. This is where our taxes go. Mm-hmm. She was saying that among the media in the media department, like Naima Lowe's was like, you took 16 credits of hate. The kids would go in there like, oh, I want to do something for the world. I want to like be artist. And then they came out there like, everybody hates me and I'm not getting what I need. And I went to one of her
16 credits of hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I interacted with her a couple of times. She's just an unpleasant person. Even just on a professional level,
Well,
like
I mean,
when you're
you've
just hanging
gotta
out
be-
and helping her, you know.
Yeah, to have that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
It's not happy. It's not,
No. I
it's
mean,
not
you
somebody
put
who's
yourself in there. Rib Rascal just gave us a super chat and just said that he really just enjoys the work that we're doing.
Oh, that's nice.
Which is
You're the
nice.
jauntiest of freewheeling provocateurs.
Is my liver failing already? I'm really that yellow. I think it's the color gray. No, it's
Did
the shirt.
somebody ask you that?
Am I jaundiced? I'm the jaundiced.
Jauntiest.
Jaundiest?
You're not yellow.
Sorry. Jauntiest. That was 10, so we're going to go on to 11.
Okay.
And
Will you get me a cup of tea?
Yeah.
After this starts? Thank you.
If it plays.
If it plays.
Oh, I might have to.
You have to actually hit play.
We're delighted to have you here to begin your work here. It is a tall order that you have in this task force's work. And truth be told, your work is, yes, about equity, but it's much bigger than that. You are engaging in our state's frontal assault on racism and the policies and practices and procedures of this state. And we live in a society where racism is pervasive. And it creates inequities of all sorts. And it is intersectional in the way that it affects people from a complex set of backgrounds. We at Evergreen are beginning to understand how our own policies and practices work to the disadvantage of some of our students and some of our staff and faculty, and have promoted and created an Office of Equity in our college, and a new vice president who is in charge of advancing equity and inclusive excellence to create a new kind of community at Evergreen. How do we change and create a culture that has an equity mindset, where everyone is thinking about difference and acknowledging difference, and at the same time understanding that our commitment is to ensuring that every student and every staff member and every faculty member has an opportunity, the opportunity to excel and thrive in this academic environment. Tall order, because your order is the entire state of Washington, the agencies, well, not yours is to create a proposal for an office that will undertake that very important work.
Thank you, Dr. Bridges. That's a good intro. As you see in our vision statement, right in the middle there, we talk about how we're going to shift power by sharing priorities, and this is the right space for us to really get into the meat of how we're going to shift power. We're going to transform power and make it work for everybody in this state.
Previously on the Complete Evergreen Story.
Evergreen catches diversity checks but doesn't give a shit about blacks.
Thank you for sharing that. We will be discussing race this year many times.
I know it's been a really, really long day. You've been to a lot of sessions, and so I appreciate you, one, showing up to this session, two, showing up to this session, knowing everything that happened yesterday and knowing that this is going to be a really engaging conversation. And three, I just want to be really clear that we're acknowledging that a bunch of stuff happened yesterday. And so part of what our goal is in this workshop is to talk about how we have these conversations and the different ways that that can look. This is the first time, a lot of times, when people get to college where they have to have those conversations, and maybe they've never even verbalized these things before. And so it can get really tricky, and we completely understand that. And we also understand that people are all speaking from their own truth. So when you hear from students, when you hear from your peers, what they're saying about their experience is true for them, and that should never be discounted.
Stop telling us that the world has limited resources, that you have limited resources. That's not fucking true. What is true, though, is that y'all don't want us to know how to fight for our liberation.
Your students are scared. Your students aren't being represented. Your students want answers. You're talking over them, you're clapping over them. Who are you here for? The students are scared. There's racial threats on campus. There's sexual assault going on. They want to know what's
If this campus is going to stand up for what it espouses to be, it needs to say enough is enough. Because if we don't, before we blink, we'll be in just as much shock as we were last week, but wondering what happened to the Evergreen State College.
Okay, George, so first and foremost, you're so fucking full of shit and like don't give a damn what you have to say. You have the fucking nerve to fucking dehumanize like R and me have you. What's in this whole
and like mostly all the trannies too.
Fuck yes, yeah.
This institution's really good at targeting trannies.
Yeah. I guess within just dropping the charges against R and me.
I know we heard early on that some of what's going on out at Evergreen is a culture. And I'd like to talk to an incident that we haven't heard about that happened in January when Chief Brown was being sworn in as the police chief. She had invited some friends and family, as well as faculty, to attend watching her be sworn in. And when the time came for the actual ceremony, several students, I think there's probably 20 or 30 students there, decided that they were going to get up in front and take over the entire event with noisemakers and drums and horns and the PA.
So I was working this event, right? So I get there early and I heard rumors that there might be something happening, and I go in there with the audio cart and I set up the microphone and the speakers and I do the levels and stuff, make sure that everything's nice and tidy for this sonic attribute of this event. And then the commotion starts, and there's these little pockets of people dressed in particular ways, not necessarily Antifa, but dressed in particular activist Olympia, young activist Olympia, fashion, with a lot of scarves and patches and things that you can very easily put over your face so that when you start screaming, I think they do it not just to hide their identity, but to help with the really high tones with their screams, because they are kind of shrill. So maybe that helps them to sound more deep and authoritative if they're cutting out all the screeching by covering up those high frequencies. I don't know.
And they actually went and took one of the microphones out of, I believe it was a vice president's hand, just jerked it out of her hand. Don't be, I'm being polite. This isn't your time.
It's not yours either.
They basically, they were cursing, saying all kinds of things. It just went on and on. There was complete chaos. I personally watched some of these students go up to Chief Brown's right up to her face and call her, all kinds of names, cursing at her, as well as she had her young children with her. Who were fearful of what's going on.
The police people started to arrive, the faculty started to arrive, the protesters started to arrive, and then I saw Stacey Brown and her family arrive, and somebody across the way starts shouting, "Fuck you," and "pig," and "bacon," and all these slanders at her, and she's like, wait, she's got her daughter there. Her daughter's 9, 10, 11, and then the protesters go up and they take the podium, and they start signaling me, turn on the mic, man. Turn on the mic, man. I'm like, I'm not turning on the mic, man. I'm not turning on the mic, man. So they started using their air horns and started shouting. But what really just pissed me off was that all these allies all these hanger-ons for this protest, they just went right to the cake table and started drinking the juice and eating all the cake. I'm like, what the f*** are you guys doing? There's no sense of decorum whatsoever.
So the decision was made by the president that the ceremony wasn't going to go on, and we all cleared the area and let the students basically take over and have whatever they wanted. So the students pretty much ran the show, is how I feel. I just felt that needed to get brought out, because I personally witnessed that on that day.
After this happened, I had a couple debriefs with my immediate supervisor and then a couple other people in the department that I worked in. And then I was called in later to be a part of, to give my statement on the event. And every time I talked to somebody in the staff, I explicitly said that when we frame the academic year in terms of privilege, in terms of oppression, then this is what is going to be the result of that.
Are you aware of any discipline taken against those students?
I am not.
Do you think you would know if discipline had been taken?
I think that if some discipline had happened later on, I wouldn't know. I personally think that at the time it would have been appropriate for some immediate expulsions.
I think most of us up here would agree with that. I'd like to get an answer to that question. I see the president as, oh, there you are.
The students were disciplined. They were subjected to our student conduct code and they were disciplined.
What do you believe was the disciplinary action taken?
I believe there was a number of quarters on probation with restraints that if the student engaged in more conduct, they would be subject to a more severe discipline.
Okay. Did you agree with the ultimate result?
No.
What would you have done if you had been able to
Let me qualify that. The process is the process that follows. So what I have in terms of my opinion really,
I understand,
can't be invoked.
But you are the president of the institution, so I'm wondering if you agreed with the result.
Well, given the process was followed appropriately, yeah, I do. But if I were the sanctioning agent, which I'm not, I probably would have imposed a more severe sanction.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
This completes my recounting of the practice protests leading up to the Evergreen Spring, with one additional note. R.N. Lawrence had been charged with a student code of conduct violation for, first of all, grabbing the mic at the Les Perce Hall opening ceremony, and secondly, for their behavior at the Stacey Brown signing-in ceremony, where they grabbed the mic from Vice President Wendy Indris and were the leaders of the uprising, or the miniature uprising. And due to them being charged for these student code of conduct violations, this leads the protesters into also demanding that the charges be dropped because they are apparently being targeted by the administration. But don't take my word for it, because here is the video.
All of the activism that's happened this school year besides this week, every single event is our Lords are being charged as instigators and for those events in like a completely erroneous and like conspiratorial way to target them because they're the most visible, because they're black and trans and disabled and poor, and like drag them through 7 months of trials where the person who gave themselves executive, interpretive and like punitive control over the student code of conduct revisions, Andrea Siebert, where she gave a 7-hour testimony again, explaining why she was threatened by R and Lawrence, and when she was supposed to give a 4-hour testimony. These trials have been like extremely inaccessible and a punishment in themselves, and no one has known about it. And I think the charges need to be dropped today.
And there's also charges against students that are just not correct. Like multiple students of color, especially black students, have been blamed for disruption, and really it's just a way to quiet them and not talk about school issues.
One of the demands was to drop the charges for R and Lawrence. Instead, the demands are being passed out. For the request of R and Lawrence, they request that George not respond to that demand, and that demand be taken off of the list. That's all.
Why do you think black men were lynched in front of pregnant black women? So the fear would go into the babies to ensure that there would be a generation of docile black men, not to mention that the mothers were going to raise their boys to be docile. that this is all by design. I think we heard that from the good doctor. Our system is designed to give us the results that we are seeing. So I would hope that we could have space to collectively experience whatever trauma from, no matter what our earth suit, as a woman, whatever it is, so that we can get back into that space and feel for the individuals for whom we have the opportunity to give recommendations for this office before we invite them to come and talk with us, so that we would be centered in the emotions that go through the years of trauma and abuse, and not think that we'll be operating out of noblesse oblige, or we're going to do something to help the folk, as though we're not helping ourselves. I would hope that we would practice what we preach and center ourselves in this work.
I think it behooves us to include a definition, as we can see the discussion here.
Of what?
Of racism.
Racism. I just want to be clear, because, I'm going to be hot if we keep using race when we mean racism.
No,
so
I'm very
Are we
clear.
all good on defining racism?
Yeah, the definitions that I looked up, and I can read them to you if you want. It says prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is minority or marginalized. I don't think any of these definitions, and I looked at a whole bunch of them before I came up with what I did, they go back to defining racism as opposed to whiteness. And I don't think any of these definitions, when I did my quick Google search, get to many of the conversations that we are having. And so I think it is important for this group to come up with its own definition, whatever it may be, instead of relying on definitions that are already out there.
I like the senator's definition. I would just add, as the other and different from white.
I think we have to also acknowledge that there's racism between people of color. So I
was just going to say, and I think we might be confusing that with color prejudice, which I totally agree, especially in countries like India, it's very, very pervasive. But I do agree that Dr. Johnson brought up the concept of whiteness, which was kind of missing. And we have to look at the historical context of why race was created. And I think Dr. Johnson, again, really did a really good job of sort of articulating that. So I think we need to call out either white supremacy or whiteness as part of the fabric of why racism exists and why it is so successful, and why we're even having this conversation in this room is because racism functions so well, because we are, do you see what I mean? It's like it's doing its job in a really beautiful way, because we're not able to, because we're stuck with, Asian versus API versus indigenous versus black, and it's like I want to just jump out of my seat, but we have to get through it. I totally agree with you. We have to get through it to really reach that other side, and we cannot shy away from white dominance. And I think that's the hard conversation that nobody wants to have, and especially, so I'm going to speak from a bureaucratic perspective, who's trying to do EDI and ESJ work in Department of Health. People will cringe when they hear white dominance. They're going to run away from people like you and me, because, and maybe I'm not the messenger for that, but that is something that we have to dismantle and really challenge. And I think that's a whole different type of conversation we need to have, which may not be for today either.
So do we want to consider the sentence, racism is a construct by white dominance that is used to oppress communities as the other?
I don't disagree with it, but I think a part of me is uncomfortable with that word white dominance. Only because I'm trying to kind of think, I wonder if this itself is a race-neutral statement, or it would alienate the very white people who are in line with our own mission, fighting against the injustice or creating socially equitable atmosphere. So I understand the historical perspective, I understand all that. It's just that word itself, I just feel like I wonder if it will be more alienation type of word.
That is a place a lot of people get to in this kind of conversation, and I think we're going to need to decide whether, whether we're committed to bold action.
Yeah,
Sorry, that's the next section. Or whether we want to
Defoe here.
on that.
Defoe would have been all over this one. But what if we added the system, the white system? Is that what we're really talking about? Dominance in the system.
Dominance is even a step down from white supremacy, which is kind of what we're really.
I was thinking too, is should it be supremacy or should it be dominance? Or a system of white supremacy?
Weird, but do we have any white allies who might want to comment about Mandeep's concern?
So I would be, I believe, addressing it as the system of white supremacy is getting to the root of what created this idea of racism, and where you're going into all of these definitions, and that just calling out that system that was created to establish white supremacy will, in essence, be able to kind of cut right to the direct source of these concerns.
I might be leaning a little bit too much upon the interpretive powers of the audience by sandwiching an episode about the Evergreen State College with these videos from the Interagency Office on Health Disparities, or the Office of Equity Task Force. Now, while of course I can't draw any strict connections between what happened at Evergreen and what might happen on the level of the state, there are plenty of connections to be drawn between the Equity Council at Evergreen and this quote-unquote Office of Equity Task Force that the state legislature and Governor Inslee has put into motion. So I just want to read the purpose of this Office of Equity Task Force and then their mission statement, or sorry, their vision statement. The purpose of this task force is to develop a proposal for the creation of a state office of equity. The Office of Equity is intended to promote access to equitable opportunities and resources that reduce disparities, including racial and ethnic disparities, and improve outcomes statewide across all sectors of government. And that's the most important line, across all sectors of government. Now, while this is included in the Health Equity Governor's Interagency Council on Health Disparities, it's been given the power to affect every other state agency. And here is the vision statement. Guided by our North Star, that is equity, we honor the broad differences and bonding similarities that make up this state. The power entrusted to us by the people inspires us to be channels for change. We shift power by sharing priorities, being transparent and reflective, and disrupting oppressive practices so everyone has the opportunity to thrive. We intentionally act to heal wounds and cultivate trust, instilling equity into every level of government and beyond. So not only are they working within all sectors of government, but their intention is to affect everything outside of government too. Assuring true democracy's light shines on all communities. Now, again, I might be a little cynical. I might be a little jaded. I might be projecting what happened at Evergreen onto this little Office of Equity that the governor and the legislature has put into power. But if you look at their language, if you look at how they center emotion and how they are given the ability to define the terms, irrespective of how everybody else talks about racism, they want to make racism linked directly to whiteness. What does this say about a government that is implementing a racial categorization and then probably giving power to agencies to openly discriminate based on race? Where does that head? Where does that lead? Where did it go with the Evergreen State College?
Fuck you and fuck the police! Hey! These racist teachers have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist faculty have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go!
We're delighted to have you here to be.
There we go.
That's pretty incredible. That guy heading the committee, He's really massaging people towards the white supremacy definition. He's like, do you mean dominance, or should we be, would supremacy be better? He's nudging people towards this redefinition.
So I'm like, oh, why did I make this decision? Why did I make this decision to put like this Office of Equity that was happening 2 years afterwards in there? And then I'm like, the process. When George says, I rely on the process. This is the bug man. This is the ultimate end of history liberal man. He's a pure bureaucrat. Everything's a process. No personal responsibility.
You mean George?
George.
Yeah, George.
And then you look at the process. You look at the sausage being made,
yeah.
and it's a bunch of people just like trying to figure out ways to increase their own power. It's like, well, okay, how do I make the process favor my will? So the process isn't neutral. It's not neutral at all. It's these people in the process, like getting up there and like, how do I get more? How do I get more? And the Office of Equity task force, they actually get implemented. I made a whole video about this. It's insane. They spend like 20 or 50 hours like crafting language and arguing over this stuff. And it's just insane the things that they're saying about how Washington needs to be more like South Africa, needs to be less focused on efficiency and on timeliness, on all these white forms of knowing. And then they're given all this power. And then the director, Karen Johnson, turns out to be super racist against Hispanic people and calls them spics and stuff like that. And then like demands everybody show up at 7 a.m. and pray for half an hour. And she's just like totally bonkers and like is like going around and like spending all this money. It's just this complete corrupt institution.
Oh my God.
It's just totally corrupt. So it's important because Evergreen, my theory is Evergreen was going to be the flagship for equity. And it blew up in their face. So they completely, everything that happened there, they completely just like shoved down. They spent a lot of money. And my videos one day in 2018, or 2018, my channel was completely demonetized and I was completely scrubbed off of Google search. When you searched Evergreen, I was the first 20 videos because I went through and I chronicled everything. And they paid the higher. I could never find actual proof of them doing this, but I know they spent tons of money in SEO. And one of the things to do in order for them to survive and get students, they would have to scrub me out.
They had to make sure that didn't come up.
Yeah, I was Evergreen enemy #1 for a while when I was exposing that. I forgot like why I was bringing that up, but
yeah, because you said that they were going to be the flagship.
Yeah, they're going to be the flagship, and then the next step was this Office of Equity, which blew up in their faces again. 2020 blows up in their faces again, and now they're kind of just backed away from it. More or less, they kind of backed away from it now. It looks like, but it's a terrible time sink. It's pure corruption. And that vision statement's so beautiful. That last line, I can't recall it from memory, but they're like, true democracy for our communities. That is communism. True democracy, which means that the community is all there is. And so everybody's subject to the community, but the community is provided or is serviced by these bureaucrats. So and the bureaucrats are not rational agents that are like beneficial.
They have their own incentives.
It's like me.
And their own
it's me.
Motives.
Me.
Yeah. Oh, this one started up with the guy. I don't remember his name. Is the guy with like the goatee?
Oh, Felix Bradford.
Yeah, he says if this campus is to stand up for what it espouses to be, and I thought, well, that's interesting because and then you have it like you have right after that the scene of like them ripping the mic, and it's like, what is it trying to be? It's not a place of learning because we don't even speak correctly.
Yeah,
we don't even have proper grammar or vocabulary. And it certainly isn't a place of any kind of like higher order or
challenge.
Decorum or anything. So what is it trying to be? And I thought it was interesting how circular George's response was when he was before. Who was he being called up before there?
So afterwards, and we'll get to that more later, they're brought in front of the legislature, like a special committee investigating it.
He was so circular. He's like the discipline, and then they would face discipline. Well, did you agree with the level of discipline? Well, it was the discipline that was given to it reminded me of Kamala Harris, actually.
Yeah.
Just kind of empty.
Totally.
Circular.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is a snapshot. The students are what bring your eyes on it, the train wreck, but like it actually, that's why I included that I'm going back and thinking, like, you have to see that this is all, it's all supported by this bureaucratic, communistic, these agencies and stuff. And I've said this before in this series that we're doing now, is that the only thing that actually happens when the protest happens is that more power is awarded to the bureaucrats, and more power is robbed from any individual agent, the teachers. The institution, the focus of the institution is further denigrated from learning, from truth, or from rhetoric even. Are there...
There's some chats to read.
Some chats.
Yeah. Go all the way down.
Oh, wow. I have to go all the way down.
Yeah, it's a lot.
We should probably forge
Thanks,
ahead. Where are we at? We have one more. Okay. Yeah. Less maniacal laughter. Is that me? Was I laughing maniacally? I have emails from 2018 or school board after they changed global diversity and inclusion to IDEA. I was like, you must stop. Yeah. It's a great idea. International diversity, equity agenda, or inclusion, diversity, equity agenda. Yeah.
Agenda? No, that can't be what that is. Wonder what that is.
Accountability? I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of just cross chatter. This is the problem with live streams. It's like trying to keep up with the chat, and then you kind of like, everybody who's not listening to the chat is like, okay, I don't want to listen to this. Us going through the chat, unless you have something specific that you can
go
read.
back down. There was one here. Somebody was asking, what Tafka Day, what do the new enrollment numbers at Evergreen look like nowadays? I know they were disastrous immediately after the insanity, but I'm wondering if they've rebounded at all. Do you have any
I think,
idea?
yeah, they did some fancy thing. They're like, Evergreen enrollment has the largest spike since its founding, because they had gone down.
They went so down.
They went so down that they're
that
now
anything
like,
was a spike at that point.
So they're like, how do we massage these numbers? But
Yeah.
it actually took a couple years for total enrollment to go down, because you had all these students who had already signed up. It's hard to transfer out of Evergreen because the way that the credits are. So a lot of people are just stuck with their degrees. So it took that class of 2020 going out to really hit the lowest of lows. And now they've been clawing out. But then it's just, yeah. They spent a lot of money on marketing.
Yeah.
Rather than like actually answering.
Actually fixing what they're doing wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like, no, we just need to advertise. And
it's such chaos. I can't imagine if you were making a decision to send your kid somewhere and you were going to support or counsel your young college age student to go somewhere. I can't imagine that would be anywhere near the list.
Even if you want a social justice degree, why would you go to Evergreen? Why not UW? Why not Harvard? Why not Yale? Why not any other school?
You probably can't get into some of those places if you're Evergreen.
Well, yeah, I guess like Evergreen is just the trade. But no, but I'm just saying like a protest degree.
Yeah. Oh.
You can go anywhere for a protest degree now. Evergreen's not like they can't brand themselves as the protest college, because even if they did, which they could have, and get ahead of the pack, like, you want to protest? We did this and we did and then just run toward it. Like, if they were smart, they're like, okay, the protest went wrong, but protest needs to happen. And here's what went wrong. We're going to own it. And we're like, this is not the way to effect change, but change has to be effected. And this is the way to do it. But then it decided to do that.
Somebody gave us the definition here. Go over here.
Of protest?
No, of idea.
Of racism?
No, of idea. This one right here.
Oh, inclusion.
Patriot asylum.
Oh, inclusion, diversity, equity, access.
Access.
Entitlement.
Yeah.
Entitlement.
Access to the kitchen guy making you food.
We're malnourished. Royally. All right, we got one more. Are you ready for it?
As ready as I'll ever be.
I don't know how long this is going to be.
Okay.
It might be short. They're about 20 minutes long each.
Okay.
How do I do that? Give me a corner. What happens next? I haven't watched this in so long. I don't know what's going to happen.
Don't forget about that.
Okay.
Yeah. The question that somebody asked was why when we responded to Brett, we would respond to anybody. It doesn't matter.
You're supposed to be on the main community for us. You
They don't want us to call outside resources. I'm
Steve Hunter's office.
Hey, Steve. I'm sorry, it's Stacy Brown. Is Steve around?
I think he's probably up. Oh, he just walked in the door. Hang on.
Thanks.
Good morning, Stacy.
Good morning.
How are you? I can guess.
Yeah, I don't think I need to answer that.
I'm calling just to give you a word of support and condolence. I'm sure this has been shitty.
Thank you. I really appreciate the phone call. I do. I'm drafting up an email to the president and Wendy this morning. I don't know if you've heard, but we have a planned rally here, a Black Lives Matter rally at 1.
Yo, everyone in this room, we're all meeting in the library lobby at 1 tomorrow. Bring everyone with you.
Yes, I heard that.
And my recommendation is to clear out all non-essential staff and faculty because this group is the same group that goes down to Olympia. It's getting more and more hostile. Things are escalating. I don't know if you heard what happened last night at the Greenery. We went into Lion's Den, 400 students who cussed and yelled and screamed at us and made demands for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then followed us all after we left and taunted us. And then they went down to the Greenery, which was closing, and demanded that they start cooking food and made Aramark employees run and hide and cry.
Oh, my.
Yeah, they're out of control, and until the college is willing to do something about it, instead of caving into their demands, it's just going to get worse and worse. So I'm going to make that recommendation this morning, and I don't know whether or not they'll take it, but I am concerned for people because it's just escalating.
Yeah, well, I wanted to also let you know that I did pull George aside and said, you cannot ask a uniformed police officer to surrender their weapon. They won't do it. So.
Yeah. Thank you for having some common sense, Steve.
I also hope you can hang in.
I don't think that's going to happen, but I do appreciate the call. I do.
Okay, all right.
Well,
that's how it's intended.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
You bet.
Talk to you later.
Okay,
bye.
Bye.
Proceed.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi. Can we get one community love? Community love! Cool. So, I am to be very aware that I just grabbed the mic as, again, being another time when I grab the mic as a cisgender, biracial, gay man. Yeah! And I forget that all the time. And I always correct myself. So, I want to make sure that we've been clear. This is a space for Black femmes first. For Black people first. For people of color first. That means whatever we do, be aware of that, and be aware of your positionality, and be aware of what you are saying. Who wants the mic?
Alright, so I am taking up space and I apologize, but just to clear some things. So there are some plans for later today, but we wanted now to take a space to build some community, and really that this has been a hard fucking year. Some of y'all have been here more than 1 year, and y'all have dealt with this institutional racism and this other shit that's been going on. So right now we want to clear up some space for us to just kind of get to know each other, look around, see the people you don't know, talk to each other. And then later, once we're finished some of the things, we'll call the attention back, and then we'll talk about some of the actions for later today. So right now, I'm going to talk to some people, and we'll be the ones that talk them back up. Thank you. Remember, community love.
Yo, we're gonna practice a few chants. Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah! Beautiful. Can I get more people to circle in this way so that we can have people in vision sight of this area? Cool. Thank you.
Let Black femmes and Black people come to the front.
Y'all can get in a little closer. That's totally fine. Thank you. So I'm going to bring up a good friend, Hadley.
Hey, y'all.
And Hadley's going to lead us in a chant. Is that clear? Cool. Call and response?
Yeah.
It's a call and response.
Okay. Evergreen, you're busted. The people are disgusted. If you can't help your students, then you can't be trusted. Evergreen, you're busted. The people are disgusted. If you can't help your students, then you can't be trusted. Evergreen, you're busted. The people are disgusted. If you can't help your students, then you can't be trusted. Okay, we got it?
Does anyone want one of these flyers to pass around at your local place of education? Yeah. All right. Feel free to copy and redistribute.
Hi, I'm Lisa with the Olympian. I'm doing a live. What's your poster about?
It's about our chief of police here on campus, Stacy Brown. And then this is on the back.
Shut it down! If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
Get what?
Yo, this was written very not for black folk, like language-wise, so keep that in mind.
Students at the Evergreen State College protest racism and anti-blackness on campus. Whereas the campus community is experiencing mounting racial tension, putting the health and safety of black and brown students at risk. And whereas the Evergreen State College administration has failed to indicate any plan of action for protection of students of color on campus. And whereas the college administration tells us that the faculty, the ones with power, are the ones that ain't got no sense. All these white people here are the ones that got sense, and they don't even work for you. How is it that the people are teaching us are the ones that ain't got no sense? And everybody's like, well, I'll just speak up because somebody keeps interrupting this man. I'm still trying to wait for him to answer the question whether it's bullshit or not. I want to hear what he has to say. So he can
Sit your ass down.
Yeah. Just turn, y'all. You know. These are the lost ones. The lost ones are rising. Pay no attention.
I don't know the guy. I just want to get to know him. That's all. I've noticed that he's been targeted and whatnot, or he's been bad guy to people, and I'm like, hey, everybody sees that too. I mean, I want to get to know the guy. He looks like a cool guy to hang out with.
This is what I'm asking. Dialogue. It's not so tough.
We're just having a private conversation. And whereas peaceful protesters were assaulted by Evergreen police officer Timothy Odell over a false report made by Professor Brett Winston.
Piece of shit. We're moving on.
And whereas the labor for dramatic change in the institution has fallen on black femme students instead of paid administrators or other white bodies. In response of these recent events and the cyclical, such big words, nature of anti-blackness and racism at the Evergreen State College, students are engaging in an ongoing struggle for equity on campus.
All right, y'all. So we're about to go occupy this building. So yeah, mic drop.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, these racist teachers got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, these racist teachers got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, these
Olympian. They're starting to go into the library. I'm going to cut off the live stream at this point, try to get some signal inside. Thanks for tuning in. I'll try to update this with a story later.
Yeah, just really briefly, this is a little bit of a aside, but it's hard to like put words on the screen. I should have just said it, but that girl, she was on the protesters' side. She's like, what? She believes everything they're saying, and then she watches them ridicule Brett. She's like, wait, this doesn't add up. And then she approaches Brett after that 4:00 meeting, and she has that conversation with him, and she's ridiculed again. And then they drag her. They see that she's teetering. And she cannot be allowed to be one of the lost ones, which is a part of some sort of Black Power, Black separationist movement. There's the lost ones.
So that's
are the
actually
ones,
a thing.
Yeah, the lost ones are any Black person who's like
not on their side.
who's not on their side, or who just isn't on their side, basically.
Okay.
And then so she's put up front, and Jamil says this wasn't written for Black people. Like, so you all have to be.
It wasn't written by Black folks.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. This language isn't for Black. This is like more language for white folk, you know. So don't judge her, which is totally demeaning. At the same time that he's putting her there.
Is that what he meant? He's like, this is too.
Yeah,
like,
this is going to be too.
intellectual.
Yeah,
or
this
something?
is too hard.
Oh
this
my
isn't.
gosh.
This isn't like colloquial.
And then
with
she
Black.
struggles, and it looks terrible.
It looks terrible. She is torn apart online. Like, this is one of the cringe footage
because
that
it's
really
like,
goes viral.
wow, this is a college.
Yeah, this is the college.
and
This is the
she's struggling
students.
that hard.
And you know, to what degree did she? This is something I've said probably while we're talking. Evergreen opened the floodgates for all these underprepared students that had been pushed through the education system because Washington schools are not doing their job.
Washington schools are terrible.
Evergreen then needs students, so they just take the money because they're going to get the money,
Yeah.
and then they don't actually do the work to teach the actual skills that they didn't get in high school. They take in all these promising a degree, and then they don't. But insofar as they did, they degraded the entire education. When I showed up on campus, I'm like, this is not college. This is high school plus.
Right.
Like, I was told my second day of class to stop asking so many questions.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I
Wow.
was told to not be so into it because I was making this Black girl feel unsafe and sleep. And she's not engaging.
Oh,
like, there's
gosh.
this other Black girl in class, and Lisa Sweet, who is in the footage, who was my first professor. She told me that. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm not supposed to be engaged. I know, and it's all about like my whiteness and my privilege. I just wanted to show up to learn. I'm like, what are we
that's
doing?
What college is supposed to be.
I'm like, what are we doing? What is this question? What are we doing? And then, you know, my whole career now is like getting in there, like asking questions of people, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, no, it's like these very special Black students who are just out of college. They need to be engaged somehow.
Yeah, just
but
out of high
then they just would fall asleep. Like, and the girl who, so I was told to lean back, and maybe I was, you know, a little excited. So I leaned back, and that student that I was specifically told needed more space to engage, she just naps through the whole thing. I'm like, well, what are you doing? And then I didn't want to judge that young woman. She was like 19. She didn't know what to do. She was looking for something interesting, and she wasn't being interested. But over the course, I just want to say, over the course of the 4 years, because we were in the same class, she found what she wanted to do, and she started getting really engaged, and she ended up doing a lot of media work and stuff like that. So her arc of development happened over the course of that year. It was just like, it's just.
But that's what equity is you have to make yourself smaller.
Yeah, it's Harrison Bergeron. Like, I need to and which was fine with me. I'm like, okay, well, I'll make things really hard for myself, and I would just like, okay, fuck it. I'm going to publish a book every single class. I'm going to write a novel every single class. I'm going to just go the opposite way, and I don't need anybody like telling me to ask questions, not ask questions. I'll just plop a novel on the desk that I know you're not going to read because you don't have any time, but I'm going to get better at what I want to do. I'm going to go my own way because it's evergreen. It's what evergreen. You know, you could do nothing. You can get away with nothing. You can get away with anything. So
I think somebody asks, Jenny's getting inky with it, asks what happened to the girl who wanted to talk to Brett. Where is she now? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't have any idea. I'm sorry. I don't have any idea where she ended up.
Yeah, I felt bad for her. She seemed like she was trying to understand. She was on their side, but she wasn't thinking in total black and white. She had some
She was
questions.
actually curious.
She was curious, yeah.
Yeah, and she had a problem with words.
Yeah, that's a hard position to be in.
That's why, and so like I don't like it. Like people zone in on her, even though I put all the words on the screen. Like she was being used as a tool, and they're like, haha, this is this girl. I'm like, in this situation, it's so difficult to see the humanity of any given person and where they are.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna collect a data point and use it to judge, and that's what I was trying to say earlier on. I'm like, let's not judge the students too hard. This is a whole system thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's such a sympathetic character. Like when you understand what's actually going on, your heart breaks because she's being underserved and then just thrown under the bus by equity.
Yeah.
Equity's actually destroying her and holding her up as like the poster child, and then like attracting all this ridicule. It's just like, it's hell.
Interesting.
All right, that was my little rant.
Okay.
This is Nikki. Hey, Nikki, it's Linda. Are they in masks or what? Do we know?
I don't see anybody in masks, no.
Don't see anybody in masks.
No, there's a massive group of people, though.
Okay.
Bigger than Election Day, I'd say. But I don't see anyone in masks.
Okay.
They do have a PA system, and they're just peacefully chanting right now.
Just chanting right now?
Yes.
All right, we'll check on it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Police Department. Hey, it's Nikki.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, just an update. The group, or at least a large portion of the group, is up on the 3rd floor, moving past my office right now.
Third floor of the library.
Thank you.
Bye.
These racist teachers have got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go, hey, hey!
There's a lot of parts to this, but part of why we're here right now standing around you is because the people that, like, people don't feel safe doing this right now. People don't feel safe having this conversation. I'm white passing, so I can stand here in front of you and I can have this conversation with you peacefully, and hopefully you don't feel threatened. I'm not trying to be that. I felt a little threatened when I was going but I don't. Yeah, people are just, the reason why people are doing this, the reason why people are presenting this radical amount of change and pushing this so hard on you guys right now is because no change has been seen, and the things that are happening are like unfair, and like people just don't feel good about that, and people are really angry about that, and that's why this is happening. That's why everyone's here, because people don't feel heard or listened to. So like, what do you think would be a good way for that to happen? Okay. For me to listen and for people to feel heard and be heard. Okay, so guys, like, can somebody put hands up? Can we do this like cool way? Like, what's something she can do right now?
Go talk to George. We made a nice hallway for you.
What we did
for you. Speakerphone.
We're doing all the work. Just wait. What we have demands. Okay, what's one? About
and
what?
meet those demands, like right now.
Okay. You know what the list?
No. It's in George's.
Alright, so does anybody have a copy of the list? Like an email?
George has the list.
Is there any way you demands right now?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to doing that. I was confused. I felt like I was confused about what was being asked of me. And what I would like to do is have George ask me to. I want to know that George wants to talk with me also.
I think this right now the students want you on their side. Like, are you on our side?
I am on the side of the health and well-being of everyone's.
Oh, so you want equity?
I do want.
You want people to
bullshit.
Yes. You want, okay, so
Liar.
What needs to happen? Stop. What needs to happen right now is we need you to go and talk to George. Can you do that for us?
Yeah, I'm willing to do that. My concern is that I'm going to be trapped in that room. Can you promise me that I'm not going to be trapped in that room?
I'm going to be trapped in that room. Promise you.
Why are you scared of
trapped in that room? But nobody here wants to physically hurt anybody else. We just want conversation to happen. So if conversation happens, and you guys walk out of there and you guys read the demands and you understand them, that's going to help a lot, I think, at this point. So
boy escorted. I'm okay.
No, you definitely do need to be escorted.
All right, Wendy's coming down to the office now.
It's literally too costly.
Hi, it's Lisa with the Olympian. I struck out trying to talk to some students earlier on camera. I'm going to try to talk to them when I'm not broadcasting live, but I will try to update us with a full story later. Thanks for tuning in.
POC are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. POC are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. POC are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. That's your turn? Oh, okay. No Evergreen police. No justice, no peace. No Evergreen.
We're outside the president's office.
No Evergreen police. No justice, no peace. No Evergreen police. No justice, no peace. No Evergreen police.
I need 3 to 4 white people to go down to the VP meeting thing right now and go get anybody you know is on the elite faculty team and drag them ass over here into that office of George so they can make decisions right now. Is that clear? I think there was some confusion with the Wendy thing. We aren't just dragging her around on her tour of the school. She needs to find herself in that office. Yeah. Cool. Who wants to take? Who wants? Huh?
He wants white.
Who wants to take?
These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey.
Let's go. Yell that shit. Do not hold up the
got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho.
I need 5 white folk right now to come with this person.
If you have a sign,
to come with this person and go down to the dean's office and make sure any deans that are down there drag their asses up here into George's office. Good? Cool. Cool, that's good. I think that's enough people.
If you say you're going to make change, make change. If you have nothing else to say, you say you're going to change.
Excuse me, y'all. White folks here stay in the back. People of color, come back.
Let's go. Let's go. Come on. If you got a sign, go to the front and project that shit. Go. And if you got a sign, you better not be quiet. And if you're white, you better not be quiet. Because y'all ain't lose shit. What did you lose? Nothing. Project that damn voice. Lose your voice.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go. Make a path! Make a path! Make a path, people! Make a path! These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist fuck you! Fuck you! These racist teachers have got to go.
Jamil, as an RA, is not supposed to be part of any of this. You weren't supposed to walk around with a bat. You weren't supposed to insult students. You weren't supposed to do anything that is against the code of conduct. But I got moved to an apartment rather than staying on the floor with my RA.
Who's Jamil?
Yeah. I don't understand why they didn't do something about the RA and why they moved the student instead. I signed something that just said, you know, you can't go to these because these students could possibly be there, but they didn't do anything like that towards the other students. So the other students could hold 400-person lockdowns of the library, but I wasn't able to go watch, you know, a lecture about entrepreneurialism. I still have seen the students that were part of this bat mob still on campus, so...
I think one of them is designing the new code of conduct.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense to me because it's already against the code of conduct. And then on top of that, I get told that I am some sort of race traitor or that I hide behind my light skin privilege because I am not siding with the students how I want. And that's something that just blows my mind because I don't feel like behavior like this towards anything is acceptable, especially when you're trying to specifically target a race. I don't feel like that's an acceptable thing to do. And for me, because I didn't side with, you know, the group that looks the most like me, I'm now a racist.
The question that somebody asked was why when we responded to red.
That's it. We might need to do one more because that's the cliffhanger.
You think?
I don't
Maybe
know.
leave it on a cliffhanger.
I don't know.
I mean, we are 2 hours in.
Yeah, we are 2 hours in. That's true.
And the chickens are on the porch checking us out.
Yeah, Jenny's good. Oh, whoa. Everything's disastrous. Jenny's getting inking with it. Just asked if there was any outside influences for this, and I was trying to explain using Leslie's account on her YouTube that these procedures or these patterns of behavior have been already via the Black Lives Matter movement and earlier iterations of the civil rights movement already been ingrained into the young people, into people who had predilections towards activism. So it doesn't need to be the case that somebody from the outside was directing any of this. Jamil is obviously directing a lot of it. And Tamika was there, and Jamil and Tamika were, their interaction with Kave is what was used to spark this whole thing. But I do know that Naima Lowe, a lot of the leaders of this movement were direct students of Naima Lowe, and she was constantly agitating for revolution. Felix was constantly agitating for revolution and explicitly saying, like I said, like in our last show, that how this all changed was that the queens of the island, Jamil being a queen, rose up and took over and slaughtered their oppressors and drove them off the island. So the mindset's already there. Everything just kind of falls in place. You don't need to have George Soros pulling the strings at this point because Saul Alinsky has been talked to these kids since they were 12, 13, 14, right? It's already there. It's all already been there. And there's no already, and we will pull from the protests back into these training sessions. The teachers themselves are silencing any disagreement and ridiculing or making threats, like veiled or otherwise, against any other professor. They're saying, wait, hold on, let's think through this. Like, no, it's your whiteness, it's your privilege that's making you question this stuff. You need to be an ally, and if you're black, you need to be an ally too. Everybody has to be on the same page.
Yeah. That's really strong there. I wanted to ask you about Steve and Wendy. You were telling me a little bit about them. Did you turn our mic back up?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Steve and Wendy. Steve is the guy, he's an administrator. That's who Stacy is calling in that opening clip.
Yeah.
And he seems concerned. He's like, somebody needs to get this together. There's sympathy there between Stacy and Steve. So what was his role in all this?
So that little bit where Stacy calls Steve, that has a lot. There's two things. So that your question, let me get back to it. I just want to say Stacy Brown knew that this was going to happen. She knew that a big rally was going to happen, and it's involving people who are going back and forth. So Jenny, you're right.
She was saying there's going to be a
crossover.
White Lives Matter rally at 1:00.
Yeah.
She was saying that.
And she explicitly told George, we need to shut down the institution today.
The whole school.
Yeah, just shut down the institution for that day and just let them
do what they're going to do.
Pull the rug out.
Yeah.
And just dismiss everybody.
Yeah.
If that would have happened, like it would have mitigated so much damage. Because what happens here, they go and they literally take people hostage. And they're told by Jamil, who is actually, and I hinted at that, Jamil is then put in charge of rewriting the student code of conduct. Somebody who's enacting criminal behavior is put in charge of this stuff.
That's crazy.
And George like wheels and deals, so it gets right through that. So Stacy had the forethought to do that, and they ignored her. They're like, no, I can handle everything. I can handle everything. It escalates the whole thing. So the important thing with Steve, so Stacy calls Steve because Steve calls Stacy. There is this old guard of Evergreen that's kind of fading out and are like really near retirement.
So that's Wendy and Steve.
Well, Wendy gets bit by the, she votes the leopard into office and then complains that the leopard ate her face, because Wendy was the one, did I say it? Stacy? Wendy Indris, the woman who's like
the VP of Student Affairs,
who's really trying. She's like, the day before, she's like, nobody's holding anybody against their will, right? She's really trying to make sure that the protesters don't violate a line, but she doesn't speak to them correctly. And then she's like, I don't want to go against my will and be unable to leave. Like there's legal implications of this.
They even tell her, we can't promise.
We can't promise that, but you need to do it anyway.
Yeah, we're not guaranteeing that.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that to you. And then she does it.
And then she does it. And then before that, she had torn down all these posters that say White Lives Matter. She had been complicit in suppressing
she was definitely
speech.
talking out of both sides of her mouth.
Yeah, she's been complicit in
facilitating this process to this point.
Yeah. So there's this old guard. So she's not necessarily part of the old guard. She's a bureaucrat, but Steve's like one of these older guys. There's a bunch of older guys. There's a bunch of older professors. And for one reason or another, and it could be what they were given to hire, the boomers hire Gen Xers that are a little to the left of them. The Gen Xers hire millennials who are a lot more left than them. And at a certain point, right around 2014, 2010, right before this happens, there's this tipping point where the radicalization of the institution, of Evergreen specifically, and every other institution, it tips over where these studies, basically the communists take over the institution, if you want to interpret it that way. It swings over because everybody's constantly required or pressured to hire to your left. Always hire to your left. And at a certain point, like, it loses all reality. And so Brett is a very staunch Bernie bro leftist and is on board with equity. I think maybe his ideas have changed since then, but he was on board to a certain extent of this. And sorry, Brett, but I have heard reports that he would mock Republicans and mock conservatives. He was a part of we're going to mock the people to the right, and beware of the people that are left, but we can keep them in control. But we're on the same side.
We're as far left as it gets.
Yeah, well, we're the rational left. Yeah, and we have people to the left, but
I think they weren't aware that there was a farther left. I think that they weren't aware.
Come on, there's fucking what happened in the last century. This is the thing. What happened in fucking Russia in the last century? How do you ignore that?
Well,
I have to say that.
You have to say that. Okay, say that.
No, you go to your next thing.
I guess I just thought this was... I don't really have much of a question about this, but it was just really interesting when they're saying, if we don't get it, shut it down.
Yeah.
What were they trying to get?
The guy's like, get what?
Yeah, I heard that.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
And I kept thinking, they hate this place so much. Well, you leave, it's I hate this restaurant. I hate your restaurant. You serve terrible food, like that terrible Mexican food we ate today.
Oh God.
If we just protest and tell them we demand them to make better food and we're not leaving and we hate them, I
want a chef to come in here. I want Anthony Bourdain to come in here and agree with me.
Yeah. And if we don't get it, shut it down. It's just, you're a consumer. Yeah. It's interesting. So what's this?
Later on, years after I get all this footage, I put it all out. And the timeline for this episode and the next episode is insane. Somebody gave me all their GoPro footage, and I had all these other lines of footage, and I had to sync it up somehow. I have this one file that's just this master file of all this synced footage for 8 hours or something like that. And syncing it was really, how do I do it? Because it cuts in and it cuts out, and I ended up counting the chants, and so you see me doing that. This episode was probably my peak filmmaker moment where I had to show these things are So I had like this forward button and back button. I didn't do it correctly, but you
It's
have
really
to see.
cool.
I wanted
It's
to
a-
see. I should have done it in one shot, like that contact when she runs up into the mirror. She opens the mirror. Like just have this one shot. Like yeah, that would be if I redo it. Like it would be just and then you reverse it.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And just have this convert. I try to do this converging timelines because there's these. This is filmmaking. Like this was a great like artistic. Craft, not artistic, but like craft endeavors. Like, how do you deal with time? Everybody has a different positionality. There is a lot of subjectivity. Not everybody's really synced up to what's going on in all these different perspectives. But I have this perfect, like, literary experiment where you have this document that has all these different lines, all these different, and it's all synced up. And then this grad student wanted to do a paper, either a thesis or his doctorate paper on the Evergreen State College for one reason or another. I can't remember his thesis, but he went through and he counted all of the chants, the number of the different chants they did. And so he went through and he counted up all just how they would phase from one thing to another to show the group dynamics of how this happened, which is really this is a sociologically very rich thing to study. Like how did this thing all happen? Like we're talking about like why and how and what, but like the sociological forces in play. And that's why the documentary is like my great work for one reason, for better or worse. We zoom out to how like what's happening on the national level informs us, what's happening on the state level informs us, what's happening on the bureaucratic level informs us, what's happening on the student level. And we're going to get into like the Black Lives Matter movement when we get onto the local level, what's happening in Olympia. So it's just like this compounding layer cake. Of
That's amazing.
Perfect storming.
Poor Stacy Brown.
Oh God. Sweet woman. Like I said, yeah, we got to hang out. We got to hang out. She's such a generous, humble woman.
They ruined her ceremony with her daughter there.
Yeah.
How did she stay on the job? How did she not walk away? I mean, just throw a giant middle finger and say, "Screw you guys! I'm getting a job somewhere where I'm not treated like crap."
Okay, that's
because she's not getting supported by her employer.
She quits after the protest, but like so I understand like the game theory for her is that she's working up a career. And in law enforcement, if you lose an opportunity, you lose everything that you stepped away from.
Okay.
So what happens when she quit? I said this already. When she quits, she goes at the bottom of the heap and starts at patrol. So she was chief of police. She goes back to patrol, which is a huge pay cut, and like all the amenities of
everything.
What's it called? Not tenure, like just
seniority.
Seniority and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she was just incensed, and and she was just thrown under the bus. There's just no,
Man, that's incredible. And Wendy too. I was thinking that when Wendy was being dragged off, not dragged, but voluntarily acquiescing to be taken hostage, and I just thought, wow, I can't help but sort of insert myself into that position and wonder what I would have done.
Yeah.
I think I would have really been angry.
Well, what would you have done? I mean, no, you could have said no.
Furious.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Are you going to carry me? Then carry me and carry me on camera.
Yeah.
Because I refuse.
I think it would have been ugly. I think I would have had an ugly.
I know you. You would have drawn the line in the sand. But I think you would have drawn the line a lot earlier. Than that. Because you saw that this is the end game. Yeah. When I saw her, I started posting videos on the internet, and I was still working for the Evergreen State College over that summer until they found out that I was actually going through their database and taking all of the footage before they would delete it. And I saw Wendy, and I said, I really sympathize with you. And she knew me. She's like, "Thank you, Benjamin." Really? And I felt embarrassed. And then when I watched all the footage, I'm like, I can't protect anybody here. Like, if you said it, I have to tell the story.
Yeah.
And I feel a little like kind of weird with Lisa Sweet, my first professor. I'm like, I have to go against you hard because later on, like in 2020, she gives this speech at their 2020 graduation, which is this class.
Well, and then you know what? I think that you're saying something kind of important right there too. It's like this is the honest truth. And we so often, we want to do things gently to protect people from the consequences of their own behavior. Yeah. We want to help people. We want to protect them because we care about them, because we have empathy for them. Fafo? What's that?
Oh, fuck around and find out.
Oh, yeah,
it's FOFA. No, Fafo, yeah.
Yeah.
Fafo, no.
Yeah. I think you have some super chats.
Oh, okay. Yeah, super chats, and then we'll wrap up. And I don't want to do any extraneous talking because this
We can do
episode,
another
if
stream later.
people want to hear us just riff about other things. Wow, there's a lot. Common ground exudes itself. My sweet baboon is calling. Thanks to everyone for the 7th day.
Baboo.
It's like it's like a baby baboon. Lovely weekend, one and all.
Oh my gosh.
That was common ground. And then Jenny, that's what I meant by outside influence. It wasn't just students coming into it. They were already engaged in activism outside school. Yeah, so there is a big crossover between Evergreen and the activist community in Olympia that is well documented. I don't think from a leadership position that's necessarily the case.
Like it wasn't direct.
But there's a lot of spillover.
Okay.
There's enough like internal agitation to this, but like the numbers, this is where like that 2% of the Evergreen student body that's protesting on the first day of protest balloons. And we know, and it's not just Evergreen community. It reaches out.
Okay.
Olympia, at least at this time and up to the 2020 election, it's just a sport for young people to show up and protest. It's just kind of like it's a rave. It's just something that they just do. So there's just this community of people who shows up.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you're taught that you should be an activist.
Well, I mean,
go out and activist.
Go
be an
activize.
activist. Yeah.
And then process error. At any point, did the students ever come forth with a list of coherent demands, or was it just like pure ecstatic fervor? There is a list of demands that I do the Evergreen Demands video, and I go through all of the demands. And it takes me like an hour and 20 minutes to go through them all. This is like like in my first batch of expose Evergreen. I get them all because there's the main demands, and then there's the Jewish student demands, and the Latinx, and then the Native American demands, and they're all kind of contradictory because they all kind of want it's pure democracy.
Oh,
it's pure pre-tyrannical democracy. It's like, what can we get for ourselves?
Yeah, but this presupposes some like centralized governing body, so that's really
that you
weird.
hate.
That has to be huge in order to take on all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and they hate them all, so they're like using the guilt from that thing that they don't even pay into to give them the thing. And then they hate the white people, and this is the thing. Like, Washington is 70 to 80% white, and this Office of Equity and Evergreen State College, like
there are people that hate white people.
Explicitly,
even the white people hate white people, and the white people who are in there seem so incredibly intimidated and cowed. I mean, they've got to be like just holding their breath, waiting for it to be them. And so they're the simps. They're just like the yes, master.
Yeah,
I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I like that ecstatic fervor. I think that's a good description.
This is Z. I've never actually pronounced your name, but she's like one of my first subscribers. She's been around forever.
Oh, nice.
She's been really nice. She likes animals. She's good with animals.
That's nice.
So she thanks, and it's great to have her around.
Thank you very much.
Here for a while, so it's great to have her around. So that concludes the third episode of the Complete Evergreen College Watch Through. That's half. We got halfway.
I wonder if you could get in touch with Stacey Brown and do an interview with her.
I wanted to, but at a certain point, she promised me to do it. Then she did her lawsuit. She was awarded the same amount as Naima Lowe. The same amount. Because Naima Lowe was like so offended by the institution that she wanted to burn down.
So Naima got a lawsuit just for being offended.
It's $150K, yeah. And then Stacey got the same amount. Or it was like $125.
Okay.
It was half of what Brett got. They got $350. So Brett and Heather. So they got as much as Brett and Heather, which is a whole other story, which I don't get into.
That's
in
interesting.
The documentary.
Okay.
But yeah, I would. But then she probably doesn't want me to talk about her.
You should
But
give her a call.
I'll give her a call. Like that when I started
That would be
redoing the
interesting.
music.
She would have. She's an interesting vantage point in all of this. It would be interesting.
She's
to
a
hear.
really nice woman too.
Yeah.
She's so like she's
well, and
a
I'm sure
teacher
that
now,
this has been really hard on her too, and it's probably a lot for her to process. It might actually feel good for her to go and do some analysis of it.
Maybe.
So, I don't know.
Stacey Brown, if you're listening, this is my wife, Leslie Elliott, and we would like to have you on our show. So thank you very much for tuning in to the show. Like and subscribe, please. It really helps the channel. Leslie is found at the Radical Center, and she does shows every Monday, and then she does a lot of interviews too. I have some interviews coming up with Lomez, which is interesting. Who's basically Matthew McConaughey, but literate. And
I noticed that you've been saying argue wrong since you were doing this documentary, so that's not a new thing.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean. How do you say argue?
What are you talking about?
You say it funny.
You say it funny.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do. I'm right.
All right.
I'm not going to argue with you. Oh, yeah. Where's the button? See you guys. Take care.